I would like to welcome to Fear Unzipped, a wholehearted welcome to Kathy Van Gilder, who is an animal communicator. This is something that thrills me beyond belief. I love my animals. I love all animals, wild and domestic. So, Kathy, I want to dive right into this. And, we're talking about fear on this podcast. And I think it's really important to talk about our animals and the fears that they might have. And I know that they might have fears about us. So, before we get into it, can you tell me what your life was like before you actually came out and said, I'm an animal communicator? And then what happened after?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a family that was very afraid of anything beyond the 5 senses. So, that put a little bit of a challenge in that. Um, so I learned to kind of walk on both sides, to pretend that I didn't have the special connection, but then I did have the special connection. So, um, yeah, so there was, and eventually what happened was I closed down. I stopped listening to the animals. As an adolescent, right around that time, and just closed the door on my intuition and all of that, and let that go. Pursued a career in healthcare, and it wasn't. It was passionate at first, and I'm someone like a lot of people. My work has to be passionate,
Yeah.
and it just kind of dwindled. So I tried to, get some messaging out there and all that, but I kept going deeper myself into my own, journey. And eventually a good friend of mine, told me about a spiritual healer and said, I think you might like him. And yeah, it was just what I needed. So he was kind of in essence, a spiritual garbage man. So he could clear up old baggage and, um, and so I did a few sessions and it cleared up pretty quickly. Now, of course, that doesn't mean everything cleared up, but was enough got cleared up so that, my third eye and my sensitivity came back, in a really powerful way very quickly. So I actually left my career in healthcare and did start working, with humans and, just on a spiritual level. And I knew it wasn't quite the right thing, and I still hadn't quite opened to the animals yet either. So, I one day saw an animal communicator on television. This was in the '90s at some point, and, I'd never seen an animal communicator in action before, and I'd heard about animal communicators. I didn't really know exactly what they did, and after seeing her, it just hit me so deeply. Um, And then the memories, they started coming back about when I was a kid and how I could connect with the animals as well as all of nature, intuitively very easily. And so those memories came back, and it was just like, yeah, this is my calling. This is what I'm meant to do. My soul is meant to do. And so we had 3 animals at the time. We had a dog and 2 cats, and I started practicing on them because, it's been a long time and I was a kid, and typically, and at least for me, and I think this is true for a lot of people when they're young, when you communicate with animals, it's more effortless.
The one thing that animals do, they make you laugh. They're just
Yes,
so
yeah.
silly and they make you laugh and it's so much joy. I just remember looking at George and I would just, oh my gosh, I felt so much joy just being in his presence or looking in his eyes. It's so much fun. So they are teaching us to lighten up. Just don't be so human.
They do get puzzled by us. They're like, "That crazy human, they love us, but wow, we don't understand that. That's crazy behavior." But yeah, and remember, because the personality, everything is orchestrated, right, to come in. So George, right, he
Yeah.
had that personality that was very silly. He could be silly. He could engage you in a way that probably no one else could, to lighten your mood. And so I find that there's a lot of animals all have different personalities. Some love to be, um, exactly what George does and
Mhm.
did, which is to make you laugh and be silly. Because what does that do? It connects us right back to our heart. And that's how we can connect with our animals. That's the best way we can connect with our animals is through our hearts. And when we are in our hearts we know, I think a lot of us know how that feels.
Mhm.
And when we're there, you can feel the difference in the animal too. I was around an animal not too long ago, a dog who was very uptight and nervous. And he was with his human, and his human, um, he was protecting his human. Basically, that's what was going on. If you look at a deeper level, that's what was happening. So he was barking a lot and carrying on, and we were in a public setting, and I I didn't say anything. I just started sending heart energy to him. Within 15 seconds, he had stopped barking. He was quiet, and everything shifted all around, including his human. His human said, "Oh my goodness, wow, he feels lighter." She was holding him. And so why I'm bringing that up is it's just the power of connection with the heart is so incredible. And while he was taking on his human's stuff, right? But that's where the barking was coming from and all that. Through that heart energy of just, kind of sending that heart energy to him and enveloping him with emerald green, beautiful heart energy, it calmed him down and came out of that for a bit.
Can you give me an idea of what that's like? Because I think people are going to want to know, what are you hearing? Is it a knowing? Is it a whisper? Are they actually words?
Mhm. Yeah. The animals communicate telepathically, but that can come through in a lot of different forms. And yes, it can come through as pictures. They do like to send pictures. It's a favorite of theirs. But it can come through as words, can come through as a feeling, as an emotion, as a smell, any of those things. They communicate they all communicate just a little bit differently. In essence, it's the same, but they have their preferred way. Just like we have preferred ways of using our intuition, it's the same thing. So, I do private coaching for people to help them learn. I also offer courses too, but the private coaching is really awesome because and this amazed me when I first started uncovering this and learning this, that the pets of the people who wanna learn, they come in and they start doing the coaching, and they say, "Okay, well, here's how I get the messages through. Here's how you receive the messages, and, here's your kind of, your strength. Here's your strength." And it could be a feeling. Sometimes they say like, I just had a client the other day who said, the dog said, I pop the message. I beam it into your head." That's what he said. "I beam it into your head." So they communicate however, they're so smart and brilliant that they know how to get those messages through the best way for their humans.
Is there anything else that you want to share about our pets and especially about fear when we're fearful? What is the best way to communicate with our pets and how can they help us in those states?
Well, one of the best things to remember is what we've already talked about, and it's something that's difficult to remember because we've been so conditioned to believe our animals are so much like us. They have the same exact feelings that we do. But just to remember that most of it's our fears, our own things, our own stuff. And so to remember your animal is beautifully and full of love trying to remind you of and help you see this own fear that you have and to remind you to get out of that vibration and to transform it and live back in a higher vibration, back to love, go back to love. And so that's, I think the biggest thing that we can remember is to just start noticing those parallels. How does that work together? Because I've heard from so many animals on a daily basis how desperately they want the humans to understand that. Such a big thing.